I made a Claude Code tips video back in February. It got a good response, but honestly, a lot has changed since then. Claude Code has added dynamic workflows, nested subagents, and a lot more. Things that genuinely changed how you might want to use Claude Code moving forward. So this is the updated version. If you watch till the end, you'll be able to build, add a backend, and deploy an app with Claude Code. And these same skills transfer over to Codex if you want to use that as well. Let's get into it. First, you need to download the Claude desktop app. You can also use Claude Code in the terminal, but the desktop app is easier if you're newer to this, and that's what I'm going to be covering in this video. And we're here in the Code tab of the desktop app. It has chat, cowork, and code, but this video is focused on code. First thing we're going to do is open a new folder inside of Claude Cowork, and that's where all of the code is going to live on our computer that it generates. So go down to the bottom, we're going to click this folder button. You're going to open your folders, and then you're going to open a new folder. You can start a new folder or go into a folder that exists and click open. We're going to trust the workspace. So now we're building inside of this folder on our local machine. For the model, we're going to stick with Opus 4.8 for now. I really hope Fable is released by the time this video comes out. Fable is best for long running tasks, but Opus is still going to be something that you're going to want to use even when Fable is released because it's going to use less tokens. But for coding, Opus is the most capable model right now. And you do need to be on a paid plan. If you're on the $20 plan, you're going to have enough to get started and build. If you're building a lot, upgrading to 100 or even 200, especially if you want to use Fable more, is going to be worth it, but you can start with $20. Under permissions, we're going to go ahead and select auto mode. This is basically going to be the mode where Claude is going to ask us when necessary if it needs to make changes to our computer, but it's also going to go ahead and do things that it thinks are safe on its own. Now you can switch to ask permissions to be a little bit more careful. There's also a plan mode, which we might get into later in the video. One thing to know, if you type a / command, you're going to see all the commands available. So for example, compact is going to compress a long conversation. Security review is going to be a review of pending changes on the current branch. We'll talk more about these later. So tip 1 is to always start with a plan. We're going to do that by going into plan mode here. And this is the single biggest difference between getting a good result and getting something that's just going to take a lot more iteration afterwards. So we're in plan mode. I'm going to send off a prompt. Let's build a simple reading tracker app. Users can add books, mark them complete each day, see their streak, use Next.js and React, start with sample data before adding a backend. So we're going to go ahead and allow Claude to run inspect working directory and toolchain. I'm going to say always allow here. And this is where that auto mode comes into play, where it's deciding what to ask us and what not to ask us in terms of permissions. And now because we're in plan mode, it's going to ask us some questions. It's asking whether we want to start with local storage or in memory only. I'm going to say local storage, which is recommended. We'll say Tailwind CSS, but we could do plain CSS modules if we want. And this is where you can give your feedback to Claude based on what you want. How should a streak be counted? Let's say per book streak. And now Claude is going to write the plan for us. So here Claude is proposing its plan to us. It's giving us context, the coding stack, file structure, components, build steps. And what we're going to do is go ahead and click accept and auto mode. And this goes into our second tip here, is about turning on auto mode. And I'm going to explain the reason for that. So when Claude writes code, it's going to create files, edit files, delete files. If you have to click accept every single time it wants to do this, you're going to be clicking accept constantly, which is just not very fun to do. Using auto mode means Claude can write and modify files freely. It can ask before running commands, which might, be more security oriented. It's going to be smart about that. So there's a safety net, and that's going to be things like installing packages or pushing to GitHub, which things that you might want to approve. But for most things that are safe, it's just going to do it on its own. So for most people, the auto mode is the best balance. If you're really technical and are willing to accept the security risks, you could choose bypass permissions, but I wouldn't recommend doing that. Okay, so our first version is created. What I like about the Claude app is it's going to open up our local host automatically here on the right side, so we can test this out. And this is going to be similar to like if you're using Lovable, for example, where you have your chat on the left side, and then on the right side, we have our app. But this is running completely on our computer. It is not hosted anywhere right now, but it built out a simple MVP. It added some books with sample demo data, which we asked it to do. And it seems like it's working well enough for a basic MVP, which is pretty cool. This video is sponsored by Usercentrics. If your website uses cookies or tracking tools, and let's be honest, almost every website does, you need a way to manage user consent properly. This is especially true if you've vibe coded a website It's not enough to just ask the AI to add a cookie consent banner. There's a lot more that goes into it, which Cookiebot handles automatically. That's where Usercentrics Cookiebot comes in. Usercentrics Cookiebot is a consent management platform that automatically tracks, classifies, and blocks cookies until visitors give consent. And it updates automatically as regulations change, so you're not stuck manually tracking legal updates. That's one of my favorite parts of Cookiebot because it's almost impossible for the average person to keep up with all of the legal changes associated with cookie consent. It covers major regulations like GDPR, e-privacy, and CCPA, CPRA, so just about every type of regulation is covered by Cookiebot. The setup is super simple. There's no advanced technical skills required. You literally just copy this script tag. You can ask your AI to implement it on your website. It'll add it to your website, and then your cookie consent banner will be shown automatically. It's also really easy to integrate with tools like WordPress. Cookiebot is completely free for small websites, and paid plans are very affordable to start. They also have a free trial, so you can get started 100% for free by clicking the link in the description, creating your cookie consent banner, and adding it to your site in literally minutes. Again, click the link in the description, and thank you again to Cookiebot for sponsoring this video. And it's also asking us if it wants to add future features, but right now I want to talk about something else, which is the next tip, which is the claude.md file. Now, if I go to files, which I can get to on the top, on this 3 dots, click on files, we can see that pull up. We search for Claude, we can see that Claude has a claude.md file, but there's nothing in it right now. The claude.md file is Claude's memory for this project. So anything we put in the claude.md file, that's going to be something that Claude is going to read before every new session. So we don't have to re-explain ourselves in the project, it's just going to know. So just as an example, we could paste in our tech stack, conventions, notes, and save. And now every new session we do in this folder is going to automatically include our claude.md instructions. And you can put anything you want in here, but it's important to know that this exists. The next thing that you need to know about is that you can run multiple sessions in parallel on the same code base. And this can make you a lot more productive. So we have our one session here, but we can start a new session. It's in the same folder. So I could say, build out the analytics page, just as an example. So we can do that. And now we have a new chat working in the same folder. And then we could have this say, wire up the backend. And we could have both working at the same time. So this is a really cool, powerful feature that you need to know is possible. The next tip that you need to know about with Claude Code right now is orchestrating subagents at scale with dynamic workflows. So let's read some of the documentation here. Dynamic workflows orchestrate many subagents from a script Claude writes, and you can rerun. You can use it for code-based audits, large migrations, and cross-check research. So those are just some examples of what you can do. So a dynamic workflow, as Claude says, is a JavaScript script that orchestrates subagents at scale. And it runs in the background while your session stays responsive. So you can keep working your session while the dynamic workflow is working. So why would you want to use this? You might be asking yourself. You want to use it for things like a code-base-wide bug sweep. This is when you have a big code base. For our example, we wouldn't necessarily need to use this yet, but if you want to have a code-base bug sweep, a huge file migration, a huge resource question that needs sources cross-checked against each other, these are things that you might want to potentially use dynamic workflows with subagents for. So Claude is telling us the quickest way to see this in action is by running deep research, which is a built-in workflow for investigating a question across many sources. So let's do this. Let's do this in our actual Claude app and see what this looks like. So we're going to do deep research. Please tell me the best backend to use. Also, something that's cool is we can see it built the analytics page from the other session while we're doing this. Okay, so it's asking what we want. I'm going to say maybe fastest to ship. And then do we need user accounts? I'm going to say yes. And where do we want to host it? Let's say Vercel. And we can see here the workflow is starting and it has 2 agents running. The workflow is running in the background, fanning out multiple parallel web searches. And then we can keep using this Claude session in the meantime, and it's going to report back with the backend recommendation as soon as the research finishes. So these dynamic workflows are really, really powerful. And This is just one example of how you can use it. So once we get our research back, we're going to actually add a backend. So right now our app is working locally with sample data, but we need a real database to make it work once we deploy it to something like Vercel. So we can see we literally have 102 agents doing deep research for us right now. All right, looks like we got our answer and it's giving us our top pick of Supabase. It's the best fit for the least backend code with real per user isolation. Runner up, convex plus clerk, and it's giving us 2 honest changes to expect when we do this. The recommendation is to go with Supabase. I agree. I usually use Supabase. I also like Neon, but it didn't come up with that. I'm not sure exactly why. We could ask it, but let's just go with Supabase because that is my #1 option as well, generally. So let's say yes. Let's add basic Supabase auth now. So while Claude Code is setting up all of the code to connect to Supabase, I'm going to create a new Supabase project. So we're going to go ahead and create the project, and it's just going to get the project set up so that way there's no waiting time once Claude is ready to connect. Supabase auth was added, so the app now supports multi-user accounts with per user data isolation. So to go live, it's giving us 3 steps: create the project, which we already did. We need to copy the env.local example. Now in our files, we can go to our env local example where it pulled in the Supabase information that it needs. So I'm going to copy this, and we need to copy this into our env.local file because this is just the example, but we need it to be in our actual env.local file. So to do this, we can actually create a new file. So I'm going to say, can you please create that .env.local file, please? So I don't think it exists yet in our actual files. So it's going to create that. It's going to do that for us with the Supabase basically variables that we need. And it's also for security, making sure that it's getting ignored. So now in our env.local file down here, what we can do is we can get our public Supabase URL and public Supabase anon key. So we're going to do that in the settings of our project. So the project URL is just on the project overview on the home screen. So I can copy that project URL and paste that in here. And then I need the Supabase anon key. So to get that, we have to go to our project settings, API keys. For this, we're going to go to legacy anon because it's still using our anon, the legacy settings. Yeah, that's what Claude has right now. Now, we could ask it to use the new pushable key and secret key, and it would look it up and fix it. But for now, it's fine to just use the legacy anon key. So I'm going to copy that and paste that in as well. Click save. And then I'm going to say I added to local env. So now everything should work. In theory, it's going to restart the server, and then we'll be able to test this out locally and see if it actually works. And then the last step is we need to add the Supabase schema by running a SQL query. And this is going to basically create the tables so we can save all the data. So it's telling us exactly what to do. We click on this file. It's going to open the file editor here. We can copy that, go to Supabase, go to SQL editor, paste that in and hit run. And there's ways to connect Supabase so Claude could run this for us, but it's pretty easy to do it this way as well. And now if we go to our table editor, we can see the books table was created. So I did that. Now I can say I did that, and it's going to verify the full flow end to end. So I'm going to say, yes, I did it. And let's see how well Claude is able to verify this on its own. It's going to test the full authentication and CRUD flow end to end. Something else while it's doing that I want to call out is you never want to paste your credentials, your API credentials into Claude. There was a reason that I went to the file and pasted in the credentials directly into the file without asking Claude to do it because it's less secure. Ask Claude to do that's going to go through their servers. It's better to do it directly yourself. The only thing I need to do is turn off the confirm email requirement in Supabase because right now Claude can't confirm an email, so it's not able to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off, and that's actually fine in general. We'll go to authentication, we'll go to sign in providers, and then confirm email. We're going to uncheck that and click save changes. So now that it's saved, I'm going to say I turned off confirm email. All right, so it went through, it literally created test accounts for us and it worked. So the next steps moving forward are to actually test it ourselves and then deploy to Vercel. So let's try it out locally. I'm going to click sign up, click create account, and it worked. I'm now logged in. And let me show you in Supabase, if we go to our authentication and we go to users and let's refresh this, we can see we now have, first of all, we have these 3 test accounts that Claude created. And then here's my email because that's the account that I just created. Okay, so now we're going to move on to deployment. So our app works locally with a local backend, but we want to get it on the internet so anyone can use it. So Claude is going to handle all of the Git commands to push this to GitHub, but I'm going to say push this code to a new GitHub repository. And my GitHub account, I believe, is connected to Claude already. If it's not, you can just work with Claude back and forth to get it set up. That's what I think is so cool about tools like Claude Code, is it understands how to use your computer, how to use software. And if you're ever stuck, you can usually just ask it how to do something. And it sees that GitHub is authenticated. So we're going to do it as a private repo, or it could be a public repo. You can really choose. I'm going to do private and submit. So the difference there is private means no one can see all the code that we wrote. Public would mean this would be available publicly for anyone to go to my GitHub and see all of the code. So I can see it just pushed to a new private GitHub repo. And here in Vercel, so you go to Vercel, create a new project. I've connected my GitHub, which is as simple as just logging in through GitHub on Vercel. And now I can import this project into Vercel and deploy it. It is literally that easy. There is going to be one more step we need to do to add our environment variables, because we didn't add it here in this first deploy. And the environment variables are these environment variables here that we have in our local environment, but we need to have it on Vercel so that it works on the published deploy. So I'm just going to copy these and I'm going to show you how to do that once this deploys. It's possible there could be an error or something, but assuming this deploys correctly, I'm going to then show you how to update it and add environment variables. Okay, it did work. Awesome. And this is the app. It's live on the internet right now. It's literally live, but we do not have the login capability yet because I did not add the environment variables. So I'm going to go to the dashboard, go to environment variables, add environment variables, paste them in. Vercel does a really good job at, like, I can just paste that and it'll put everything where it needs to be. I'm going to click save, and then it's going to ask us to redeploy, because without redeploying, the environment variables will not show up. So now it's redeploying. We can go to deployments in Vercel. So we can see it took 28 seconds to do the first deployment, and I'll pause and come back once this one's done. Okay, so it's now live. We can click on it, click in, and now hopefully, yes, we have the ability to sign in, sign up. I like how it must have built it in a way so it didn't fail without those environment variables. It just showed us all the test data. But yeah, so now it's working. I should just be able to also sign in to the account that I just created, and that worked. Now I'm signed in. Here's my shelf, which is empty. Let's say I put Harry Potter as my book. I can add it and then add a streak that I read it today. And it's as simple as that. Now it is working. And if we go into Supabase, and if I refresh the table, we can see now Harry Potter is showing up in the database for our account, and the completed dates data is going to show up here as an error. So all of that is working correctly. So that's 90% of what you need to know about Claude Code to build full stack apps and deploy them. There's more to cover, which we've covered also in more in-depth videos, such as plugins and hooks, MCP servers, but those are the last 10% of what you need to know. This video covers the first 90%, and if you master these first 9, then you can build and ship real apps with Claude Code. If you enjoyed this video, click the link in the description to subscribe to our free AI newsletter. It's a 2-minute daily brief on the most useful AI developments written in plain English. Subscribe to the channel for more Claude Code and AI coding tutorials, and I'll see you in the next video.